Hey, this is Kyle Austin. You're streaming the Melodies and Memories podcast hosted by Jillian and Aaron Schreiber.
Cause that's all I get out of Dodge.
Welcome to the Melodies and Memories podcast with Jillian and Aaron Schreiber, brought to you by Arlo Revolution. Each week, they connect melodies and memories with fans and singer-songwriters from all genres of life. When all else in life is gone, music will be left to leave the legacy of life's adventures. Please welcome your hosts of the Melodies and Memories podcast, Jillian and Aaron Schreiber.
Ooh, I love that. I was just posted on Facebook, shared this, and I said, "Oh, I can't wait! I'm excited for this one." I love that we've done 169 of these. I still get excited for each show.
I know.
It's like every show, I still get excited.
Well, back-to-back shows, it starts feeling like a job,
Well, it's
like
just
we get
fun.
into
we get a good groove. Even though it's
you think after 169 shows we'd be in a group, but we're not.
Yeah. Hey, we got a special
mistakes.
guest with us tonight too. That's going to sit on the show. I want to bring you up, buddy. Look at this guy, our little 9-year-old co-host tonight. We got two of them. He's going to sit in and be behind the mic every now and then tonight. We're just going to have
learn
him.
what we do.
Yeah, he's learning. He's soon to be YouTuber. Or he's kind of a YouTuber now. You got what? Cryptic Steel on YouTube. Follow him. He plays Fortnite all day. So
He doesn't play Fortnite
all day, but it's summertime. But hey, we're just kind of rambling right now. We're checking out the audio, making sure everything sounds good. If you guys are in the chat, give us a thumbs up. Does it sound good on your end?
Yeah, we're good to go.
All right, buddy. We're gonna keep you in the background for a minute. All right, are you ready to rock?
We're ready. Hello and welcome everyone to season 7 of the Melodies and Memories podcast. I'm your co-host, Jillian Schreiber.
And I'm your host, Aaron Schreiber.
And our mission tonight is to provide a platform for motivated singer-songwriters, passionate fans, or someone who's making a difference in and around the music community. We hope everyone listening tonight leaves inspired with a positive outlook and begins connecting their own melodies to memories. Tonight, we're presented by our good friends at Arlo Revolution. Cinematic wedding films, music videos, and promos. Find them at arlorevolution.com. And One Tree Planted. For every 1,000 downloads of the show, we plant a tree with One Tree Planted. Download the show on your favorite podcast app. And Poddex. Poddex is the hottest tool to get your next great interview questions, unique interview questions in the palm of your hand. Our on-screen sponsors are Art on a Higher Wire by Joelle. Original and custom artwork inspired by your life moments, treasured photos, and memories. Looking for ways to support or sponsor Melodies and Memories music media? Then please head on over to our Patreon page where tiers start at just $1 a month. The next best way to support the show is to like, share, review on all podcast platforms. Remember, you can join us live every Monday night at 7 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube, where you can interact with the show, ask questions, or join in on the live chat with your favorite guests. Visit our website, melodiesandmemories.com, for music news, concert reviews, photos, playlists, and more.
Ooh, like I said, I'm excited. I still get excited for these shows. So one of my first groups I ever had on this podcast way back when was Everett.
Yeah.
Huge Everett fan. And of course me, I'm always, if I hear a good song, I'm on Spotify or wherever, I'm clicking song credits. Yeah. Who wrote that damn song? Where was that song born? And I kept seeing this one name pop up and I kept on digging. And I found out some cuts from like Tim McGraw and Joe Nichols or stuff like that. I was just like, man, we might have to have this guy on the podcast sometime.
Have a little chat.
Let's see. What's Marley barking at now? That's our dog barking in the background. Sorry, guys.
In case anybody doesn't know, we're in our home studio.
Yeah, it's our basement studio.
AKA basement.
But yeah, so that's why I was like, I gotta have this guy on sometime. And I just kept kind of watching over the last year or two what he's been up to. And honestly, I just love this guy's songwriting style, love his music. And I'm like, all right, it's time to reach out and have him on finally. So tonight we're excited. We're joined by a Fort Worth, Texas native who's got some serious songwriting chops and has left his mark on the industry in more ways than one. From his hits that have been cut by the likes of Joe Nichols, Tim McGraw, and Blake Shelton, to his unwavering dedication to his craft, we're honored to have Bryan Simpson join us. Bryan has always been passionate about his music. He grew up surrounded by the rich musical heritage of Texas, and it's safe to say that it's seeped into his soul with his raw, powerful vocals and moving lyrics that hit all the right notes. He's quickly risen to be one of the best songwriters in the industry, and you can feel his heart in every word he sings and every chord he strums. We're honored to discuss the melodies and memories that make up his journey. We're going to go ahead welcome Bryan on. What's up, buddy?
Jeez.
We are so excited to have you on tonight. We're so ready.
Welcome to the Schreiber Circus. We got kids.
The minute we go
dogs.
live, the dog starts barking.
Of course, we were all ready to go.
Yeah.
That bio, that intro was incredible. I wasn't nervous initially about doing it, but after I hear that review of that intro, I'm like,
I got a little nervous. I just had dinner with my wife, and she was like, "You're just gonna go on a podcast live? There's no taking it back, and there'll be people listening, and you're gonna have to try and seem kind of coherent and interesting." And I was like, "Oh God, that does sound difficult to do."
No pressure. No pressure.
But we lay it out pretty easy too. It's pretty laid back and everything, and that's why I like doing this show, man. This show kind of developed around COVID, so because songwriters and artists didn't have a platform for a year or two, and so we were kind of doing this podcast, interviewing just fellow fans of the music and whatnot. And I think it was like the Everett guys that actually reached out to me. It's like, hey man, we ever want to have an artist on sometime? I'm like, yeah, let's do this.
Let's do this.
So, but Brent and Anthony are great.
Dude, I love it. I know we were talking a little bit earlier. We'll probably talk about them later when we're talking about some music. But dude, I like to throw this back every week the same way. And kind of get your earliest music memory, man. What were your parents listening to when you were growing up? I know you kind of like was around the age of 9. You knew you kind of wanted to do something in music, but what happened from when you first knew about music to the age of 8, man? What kept it brewing for you?
Well, I didn't grow up in I grew up in a family. My dad loved, like, I would sit in the garage and not learn anything. Certainly he would attest to that I don't know how to do anything with cars or anything like that, or tools, or completely. I'm a tool when it comes to tools, but
I agree.
But I certainly, but I did listen to that late 70s, early 80s country FM, country gold radio, and all that kind of stuff. And then we would also, and then I don't remember what age, but I wasn't too old when my granddad, I think, started dragging the family down to bluegrass festivals down in like Glen Rose, Texas, and we'd go down to that festival twice a year. And it was a really, the bluegrass festivals, you can get really up close and personal with artists. And so I would sit there and soak it up, mainly with my granddad. I remember me and him sitting through shows. I'm not even sure I was that interested in the music at that time, but I was certainly interested in hanging out with him. And he would sit there with his legs cross-legged and a cockeyed hat on his head, and it'd be in the middle of, it could be 102 degrees, watching some band that was probably rehearsed maybe once every month or something like that, and he would just loved it so much. And so it made it really easy for me to sort of soak up that music. And so those are some of my earliest memories. I do remember being not very old, dressing myself up in as much as I possibly could with a hat and sometimes a diaper. And I wouldn't be wearing, someone else would be wearing that. Somebody else would put me in the diaper, but I wearing the cowboy hat and just strumming this big guitar that someone had bought me, and my grandparents probably, or my parents maybe, some Yamaha guitars, playing to like Ricky Skaggs' Country Boy record when he's in that electric suit on the cover. Mm-hmm. And that was probably like this instigated everything. I just wanted to look as cool with the feathered hair and the electric blue suit on and Country Boy was just an amazing record for me. So I would sit there and strum, not knowing at all what I was doing.
I don't want to jump around, but you worked with Ricky Skaggs at one point too, didn't you?
Yeah, somehow
a full circle for you.
Yeah, it was. It's a large feather in my cap of it kind of made me feel like, okay, I kind of, something I'm doing is right. I remember getting a call. We had made a record, my old band Cadillac Sky. Mm-hmm. We had made a record and we'd produced it ourselves and everything like that. And then, that's cool, that picture on the feed, that my wife took that picture in a church. So
dude, that's an awesome
getting props tonight for her. She's not a professional photographer, but she's got all these photos everywhere that I see. I'm like, my wife.
Yeah, I'll just steal like 30 photos or whatever, like from your Instagram or whatever that I could find, just to kind of show your journey while we talk. So that's cool to have that one on there.
Pay people $2,500 a session to do big photo shoots, and the photos that appear in my wife's, and she's like, yeah, don't you forget.
She does the same stuff.
Oh, yeah.
She knows how to catch me in the right light and everything. But yeah, I remember sitting with my wife. We had made this record. We didn't know what to do with it. I still, 20 something years later, I still don't know what to do with these records. Once you make them, how do you get them out there? How do you get people to hear them? We were stuck in the same grind back then. And this had been probably around 2005, I think. And I remember it being at Duck Lake in Fort Worth, Texas. And me and my wife had just gotten ice cream cones. And Ross Holmes, who great fiddle player, played in the band, a good friend for a long time. And he plays now, I think he plays with Nitty Gritty Dirt Band now. I know he does, unless something has changed in the last few weeks. But he called me and said, hey, Ricky Skaggs just called me. Ricky Googled the band just to find, because there was so little information and the internet wasn't as expansive as it is now. Right. And he Googled the band because he heard somebody, his engineer had gotten the record from our engineer, Eric Legg, and passed it on to a guy that worked for Ricky. And Ricky heard it and loved it, and just Googled the band, found that the fiddle player Ross was teaching lessons at this place in East Texas. So he just randomly called the shop. Ross happened to be there. Ross said, well, hey, the guy you need to talk to, the guy that started the band, and kind of runs captain over it, because nobody wanted all the trouble with it, really. And then all of a sudden, Ricky Skaggs is calling me, and I really thought it was a prank call.
I'm sure.
Yeah, Ross would be prone to do something like this as well. So when he called and said, hey, Brian, this is Ricky Skaggs, or hey, buddy, whatever he called me, it probably was either Buddy or Brian. And he said, I love your record. I want to buy it and put it on our label. And I was like, I don't even think I even heard the figure, the amount. I was like, I'm in, whatever. And I just kept waiting for him as we started the process of putting the record out, for him to just say, like, I want to change this, I want to change that, and he never said anything. And I just had this, all my life I'd heard of Ricky being this nickname of Picky Ricky. And I just knew he was going to say something kind of sucked, honestly. And we need to fix it. And he never really said anything at all. I think he suggested adding a second fiddle or something to one of the last songs on the record, but that was just an addition. It wasn't a subtraction, which I was surely was coming. So that relationship was great. And still, I worked on a song with him late 2021 that hasn't come out yet, but hopefully it will at some point. And he's been a mentor and somebody that I can look to in the music business as a guiding light of how to like sort of carry yourself with integrity and honor, and presenting. Ricky does an incredible job of not only making music that's interesting, that's true to him, but also doing it in a way that has a lot of that honors his creator and honors the gift that he's been given through that. So he's no doubt,
his own style too. Like he's his own. Like you hear it's those type of songs, like where you hear it, you're like, oh, that's so and so. You hear a Ricky Skaggs song, that's Ricky Skaggs playing that song. You're like, oh, I know that fiddle. I know that playing, or banjo playing right there.
Yeah, 100%.
I love that, man. No, I love when you mentioned that Ricky Skaggs had an early effect on you. I'm like, man, I remember reading somewhere that he worked with them too. That's awesome.
That's incredible. What a great story.
Yeah, dude. Yep. So I always also like to ask kind of your first concert experience that you kind of really, the first one that you went to is like, wow, this is something like you just had to take something away from it. Who did you go see and what did you take away?
Well, it would have definitely been like at that festival I mentioned earlier at Oakdale Bluegrass Park, where there was a band called the Lewis Family Band that would play. They would be there, I think, in the fall, usually around October, and they were like this Southern gospel bluegrass band out of Georgia, and they would roll up in their bus. They were like one of the few bands. They were like kind of like the big band that would play down there. And at the time, they had their own TV show in Georgia and all this kind of stuff, and they were pretty big time. And at least in those circles. And to me, they were humongous because they pulled up in a big Eagle bus, a Silver Eagle, and they all rolled off. And at that point, I was probably like, 6, 7, 8 years old. I was like, it was blowing my mind. I thought that was the best thing, the coolest, most rock star thing I'd ever seen. And then they would take the stage. There'd be like 7 or 8 of them in the band, 3 sisters, a couple of brothers, an uncle, a dad, the whole family. And they'd get up there and for their 45-minute set, they would entertain within an inch of themselves. And I was complete. It was funny. It was musical. Mm-hmm. It was worshipful. It was fast. It was, you know what I mean?
So you kind of got a little taste of everything when you went.
Yeah, it was everything. And I just remember, I was probably bitten by the bug in a way there. But I wasn't necessarily like, I'm more extroverted than ever now, but I've always kind of been like, my brother is far more somebody that would walk up to someone. Like I'm sure I never walked up to that band and said, hey, I'm a huge fan. I never walked up and said, hey, I'm Brian, or shook their hands or nothing. Now my brother would do that. And sometimes I'd hang out behind him, even though he's 4 years younger than me. I'd kind of be behind him because he was always more brave when it came to that stuff. So, but I definitely knew that's what I kind of wanted to do, was make music. I remember when I was in, I think it was a Sunday school class, they made us put on a piece of paper what kids wanted to do, and I had written down there I want to be a musician when I was like 9 years old.
Hell
so,
yeah.
And I think it was self-fulfilling. My wife would prefer that it wasn't like the only thing I knew how to do. I should have on that piece of paper it said what you want to do when you grow up. I should have wrote, this is the only thing I want to do when I grow up.
No plan B.
Yeah, because I never learned how to do much of anything else. I always tell people it's like I was either going to be successful at music or start breaking into houses, and it's really hard at my size to squeeze into windows. So this is all the only choice I had, really.
It's a good thing that worked out then.
I love that.
Worked out.
With your brother being 4 years older than you, did he have any music influence on you, man? Did he pass?
Oh, he's 4 years younger.
Oh, 4 years younger. Oh, okay.
He's 4 years younger.
Well, then let's throw it that way. Then did he kind of bring anything new and fresh to you that you might not ever heard? Like, I mean, I know, granted, I'm 30 or I'm 40 years old now, and my kid's 9. But he'll bring songs to me or people to me. I'm like, oh man, who's this? I'll start listening to it. But did he ever introduce you to anything that was kind of
for sure
out of your range?
For sure. I mean, we're pretty close. We're pretty close, and we always have been musically aligned in that respect. So, but he definitely he'll text me something that I haven't got a chance to check out. And it'll be, and he's always been there we are, me and Everett on the screen. But he's always been, I mean, I don't think I have to look far to know that between him, my family, and my wife, I've had an incredible support system, and he's always rooting for me. And I'm always asking him to give me feedback, and so we're always talking about kind of finding a way to work together. And he's one of the, on one hand, I can name people that I can trust. They're going to give me an honest opinion, and not one that's built of anything other than wanting the best for me. So he definitely gets to hear the songs about as fast as anybody does. I'll send it to him and see what he thinks about them. And so he's an integral part of the music I make, for sure.
He won't sugarcoat it. He'll tell you what he really thinks about it.
No, he won't sugarcoat it. Yeah. He has, and honestly, he could be just like, he could rip me, because I'm sure as an older brother, there were times where I wasn't the kindest to him.
Yeah.
we definitely, most people will attest to the fact we played twin fiddles. When growing up, we would go down around to local operas and play twin fiddle shows. And so I would teach him the parts or whatever. Now, I was a pretty decent player, but I wasn't a very good teacher. Or I wasn't a very patient teacher. I feel like I'm a better teacher now, but my patience was really short. He wasn't quite bitten by the bug that I was, so he didn't practice as much. So probably to my parents are probably thankful for that he didn't practice as much as I did, because they got their sanity back after I left the house. So I would be a little more of a taskmaster than somebody who's a patient teacher, which is probably what he deserved. So in spite of that, he still seemed to be pretty kind with me.
I love that, man. So you started songwriting around the age of 12 or so. Before 12, did you really know what a songwriter was? Did you ever look at old CD books or cassette books or anything like that, and like look at the songwriter names? Did you have anybody maybe you looked up to then?
Yeah, I think I did. I think I started looking. One reason was I started, there was a guy that played, he just passed away the last couple of years, a guy named Tom Moore, and he had a band called the Shady Grove Ramblers. And Tom had written actually a song for one of my favorite concert experiences, and one of my early ones. It wasn't the earliest by any means, but probably around 13 years old, I went to see, Tom had written You May See Me Walking, which is an old big hit for Ricky Skaggs back in his country days, his epic days. And he was playing the seminary there in Fort Worth, and we went to see him play, and I got to meet him. That was the first time I got to meet Ricky. But Tom wrote songs, and he was a visual representation of, he didn't actually sing the song. He wrote the song for the artist, and the artist sang the song or whatever, even though he was an artist in his own right to some degree. I mean, honestly, I don't think about it a lot, but my career path has probably followed Tom Moore's career path more than I usually publicly recognize, because he had bands, but he also wrote songs for other people, and his life kind of got in having children and having to make a mortgage and stuff kind of got in the way of his being able to do it full time like I've been able to. But he was great, and so he was somebody that once I knew he wrote songs and I had heard him on other artists, I started to look into it more and pay attention to it more. I'm not sure I understood the financial end of it at all. Like, I didn't know that, sitting on this couch, I could make a lot of money if I figure it out. Every once in a while, you get pretty lucky, and I've been lucky and blessed for sure. But I do remember starting. Tim O'Brien was a huge influence on me, like his band Hot Rise. I knew he wrote songs as well for other people, although I didn't know Tim. But he had a band called Hot Rise, but he had written songs for like Kathy Mattea and Dixie Chicks later on, and all these kind of people. So I was a little more aware than maybe some kids, but I'm not sure at all it synced itself together or cinched itself in my brain, like stitched it. That's the word I should use. Stitched itself together where I knew, that's how they make money, and this is how this works. I surely didn't.
The whole process, yeah.
Right.
We were talking to a guy last night. When growing up, I always thought for the longest time, whoever's name was on the cassette tape. I was born in the 80s, so I had cassettes, but whoever was on the cassette tape, that's who sang it. That's who wrote it. That's where the song came from, was them. When I looked at CD books or cassette books and saw other names in there, it sparked my interest. Like, all right, who's these names in parentheses? Like, who is these people?
Yeah. And the funny thing about it now is that it's actually more true now. Most artists' names are appearing on the songs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, not every one of them is actually well, I won't get into that, but their names.
We've seen more singer-songwriters lately too. I feel like the singer-songwriter genre is getting huge lately, and people are keeping songs more for themselves, and I love that.
Yeah, it is, and there's I think it's funny. What do they say? What's the mother of invention? I can't remember the term, the phrase, but lack of is the mother of invention. Somebody's screaming at the screen. I'm supposed to be the one with the wave with words, but I think the fact of like record sales not being what they used to be, I think you're seeing a lot of people go find other routes in order to sort of make their own records. You're seeing a lot more songwriters not just sit. You just can't sit around and wait for royalties to come in by the next hat act,
Right.
So kind of making other avenues, and so they're finding ways that they can. So you're seeing a lot more records made by people that still write songs for other people, but also making records of their own. And so it's a really cool thing. And I love more of the, I love hearing the songs that the songwriters haven't gotten recorded. I'm always kind of disappointed if I go to the Bluebird or something like that. And if I don't get to go over there and just sit. I used to sit in the pews over there and just like soak it up at the 6 o'clock show or whatever. And I would just walk out of there so inspired, getting to hear guys like Craig Carruthers or Don Henry or Don Schlitz or whatever, all be in this big round and they'd be having the best time. And I just wanted to be in that circle. And they'd be singing songs that I didn't heard because they were kind of quirkier songwriters. So, not Don Schlitz, he obviously had plenty of hits, but the other guys were a little quirkier. So they would play these quirky little songs and I wouldn't have heard them before. And so I would be so intrigued by those songs, the ones that aren't getting necessarily, because I know for me, the songs that aren't necessarily the ones that you would list in a bio are the songs I would go, man, there's a couple of songs in my catalog that no one will ever hear, but I'm the most proud of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
We're diehard Eric Church fans. Everything behind us that you see on our walls is all stuff I've collected of Eric Church's over the years. And somebody gave me like 70 songs of his way before his first album that are just publishing cuts, this and that. And I swear this is some of his best work I've ever heard. Like, and people never hear these songs. They're buried. They're deep down. They'll never see the light of day. I think Ray Fulcher finally cut one like a year or two ago. And it was just crazy that he even cut one. But I listened to some of those songs now, and I'm like, dang, dude, if he put one of these out, they would go straight to number one. Like, just listen to these songs. But yeah, some of the songs are these gems that you only will hear if you go to Bluebird or Songwriters Rounds or places like that. So definitely, if you're in Nashville, check those little areas out because you're gonna hear some cool gems.
For sure, man. I love yeah, that's Eric is amazing. I get to write with one of the guys that has written a bunch of hits with him, Jeff Hyde, and he's one of my best friends and one of my favorite guys to write with. And you should have him. I don't know if you've had him on here, but
no, we know Hyde real well. We've had Driver on. Driver's been on, but yeah, we've known Hyde for years, man. We've Jillian and I used to live down in Mississippi, and we got to catch Eric Church in like 2006 and started kind of hanging out with the guy. That's actually his Gibson Hummingbirds right over my shoulder.
Oh, sick.
He ended up giving it to me one year, and I was like, dude, this is blown away. Like cigar burns on it, but yeah, dude,
Jeff's a little more shy. He's a little more shy than
but he's quirky, dude. And that's what I love about Jeff.
He's a great songwriter, though.
He's funny when he wants to be. I got my old dash cover on my car is autographed by him, and Jeff wrote, "Don't take no wooden nickels," and signed my dash in his car. But just the funniest things he would write and everything else. And I love it because he's quiet, but when he puts pen to paper, dude, things that come out of him are just wild.
He is a true songwriter. He's another Texas boy.
Yep.
What was one of your favorite songs you wrote with Jeff?
We just wrote a song called Spinning.
Okay.
It's about a man getting I'm seeing. I wish I could think of what it. I never can remember what the actual what it actually. Let's see here. Second.
And speaking of the devil, there's a picture of you and Jeff Hyde in front of the Bluebird.
Oh, really?
The very next picture.
That guy tried to say, have you heard his song Pants?
Yeah. Well, was that on his one album that he put out?
I don't know. Charlie Worsham put it on a record, but it has like 7 lines in it, and he tried to make that on that show at the Bluebird. He tried to make that his round, you know. That song is like, let's see. Can I play a little bit of it?
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
Go for it.
Let's see. It's called Spinning. Last summer the Lord called Granddaddy home as we laid him in the same ground that he loved and worked every day of his life. But before he was 6 feet down, all the next of kin was fighting, trying to get their hands on the family farm. Some distant cousin with a big shot lawyer went out and bulldozed the barn, put up a Starbucks and a Pizza Hut, a strip mall for a country mile. But the insurance rates keep going up, 'cause every once in a while the ground starts to rumble and the building starts to bow. The walls in that concrete jungle start tumbling like Jericho. People start raising hell and praying, thinking it's the end of the world earthquake. Me, I'm grinning, knowing it's just Granddaddy spinning in his grave.
Yes, and that's what
great.
when I first started following you, man. I got that from you. Like I watch a lot of your stuff. I'm like, this guy, he has a funny side, he has a serious side. And that's what I love about your writing too.
Thanks.
I'm a big Luke Dick fan, and honestly, when I was researching for this show, like I saw so much Luke Dick stuff in you. Like I was just like, this guy is like almost a spitting image of like what Luke Dick's been doing over the years.
I love it. Yeah, man, we've only gotten around a couple of times, but I think it's because people go up, man, he does similar stuff to him, so let's put him with someone who doesn't do the similar thing, you know, whatever. But I hope to get more opportunities to hang out with Luke and just watch him. I love guys that do anything while they're writing that's kind of interesting, and Luke will light up a pipe like 100 times during the write. It's so interesting to me. I don't have enough vices while I'm writing. I just kind of sit there.
We had him on the show, and I swear he was smoking weed in that pipe.
Oh yeah.
He was sitting there like this with that pipe the whole time that we were live. I'm like, this guy's just a badass. I love it. So, I also, when I was researching for this show, I heard there was one time you were in a movie theater and you had to run out because you just was inspired for a song. Do you remember what movie it was? And 2, do you use your cell phone a lot, kind of, when you're just a spur of the moment? Like, we're kind of like, I got to throw this down on my phone. It's an idea that I can't let it go.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think of what movie it was. The problem is it wouldn't have been just one movie. It would have been lots of movies.
Okay.
That I love going to movies. Me and my wife go to movies when we're in town or whatever, probably once every 2 weeks, if not twice every 2 weeks. And lately there haven't been too many good ones to see. So, but we'll try to check them out. So we love going there. And so I definitely get inspired by movies and other stories or whatever. And I always feel like I can write off the movie ticket if I can go get a song idea from it. So it's really just a tax evasion situation.
There you go.
But yeah. So what was the other question?
No, I was just kind of like, well, you kind of want to know the movie.
Do you throw your ideas down on your phone, or are you like a pen and paper kind of guy?
Oh, yeah, man.
Well, I was hearing like you had like 9,000 voice memos or something in your phone. Like,
yeah. Let's see.
Well, how often are you always using that, like, to put ideas?
How many I got here? How do you count? How do you know how many you got here?
I don't know.
I don't know how many. Oh, it says, I have 8,937 all recordings. I recently deleted one, it says, because I finally decided that one out of the 8,897 was not any good.
Yeah.
All the rest of them, I'm holding out hope for that someday they're going to bloom into something great.
Oh, they will. I'm sure. That's awesome.
So a lot of them are like every 20 of them are the same exact song, just like me singing and, getting in a sort of a rabbit hole where I just like keep changing the melody or tweaking lines, and then a new one. So sometimes I do have to go through there and clear them out because it's just like a lot of the same,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. I have just to-do lists in my phone. There's tons of them. I'm always have to do them because I'm the type of guy where I like to lay things out. So I have those lists. But so you wrote Better Than I Used to Be with Tim McGraw, or for Tim McGraw. Yeah, Joe Nichols, A Guy with a Girl, Blake Shelton. Man, your lyrics over the years have been very personal and heartfelt and everything else. How do you decide though experiences? We're talking about like movie theaters, this and that. But how do you
draw from experiences?
Yeah, decide which experience to draw from when you're writing songs? Like, do you know, like, all right, I'm going to take this, I'm going to the right with this experience, this is what I want to talk about? Or how do you pick?
In rooms, I kind of do a little bit of both. There are times I walk into a room that when I'm writing by myself, I definitely when I'm writing for my own projects, I'm trying to find something that's oddly me that I want to write about. It's I can hear as I'm writing it, if it's a song idea like that, I think to myself, like, I don't really want to have to it's not the word's not quite, I don't think compromise is quite the correct word, but I don't want to put anybody else on the hook for this idea. Like, you know what I mean? I'll be the one that answers for the blame, gets the blame and the credit. If it's, if it's stupid or it's too silly or too weird of an idea, then I won't, because I feel like there was some responsibility if I go in and co-write with someone that, they probably want to, or someone in their camp wants them to write a song that can actually make money. I always joke to my wife that the genre of music that I make is nonprofit, and she always amens. She says she doesn't, but I think secretly she amens that. It's not that. But somebody texted in. Good to see and hear you, Bryan. Hope you have been successful. Hey, Blake. That's cool. We used to see each other at the Grapevine Opry back in the day. I don't know if I'm supposed to read those when they come on.
That's all good. Hey, if you do, I throw them up there. People comment on the comments. I throw them up there. If you want to read them,
Mom and Dad are watching. I see that. That's, they haven't given up on me yet. But there are times, but when I'm in the room, especially if I'm writing for another artist, I'm trying to find something, probably to my own detriment. I don't necessarily love working in broad strokes. So I'd rather find something that is very sort of like they're the only artist that could sing that. Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned Everett earlier. They have a song called "Dang the Whiskey," which is a song about Brent getting in trouble with the law when he was a kid up in Bowling Green. And so no one can actually, if they didn't cut that song, no one else is cutting a song because no one's actually probably had that experience. And usually we're writing it from a first person situation. Now, sometimes it might work. But obviously, there's a lot of money to be made in the broad strokes of lyrics that are less nuanced or less niche. So I like to do that. I like to write songs that only the artist, because if it works and when it works, they're the only ones that can sing that song, and I feel like the audience will completely feel who they are. And that's my favorite kind of artist, is that when I hear them, I can hear their soul. I can know who they are in 3 minutes. At least to some degree, a lot better than I did before. Because there's certain artists on the radio on a regular basis that I may like their song, but I have no idea who they are. They might have 5 number ones. I could name artists for you. I don't have to, because you probably know who they are, or maybe you don't know who they are. You wouldn't even know who they are. But I go, oh, they had that song, they had this song, but there's no there's no tie, there's no ligaments between the song and the artist. It hasn't connected me with the artist. And you can see that all the time in streaming numbers for artists that have number one songs, but have streamed, very little. They stream very little. And then you have the artists that are streaming like crazy and not necessarily haven't topped the charts, except for maybe a few songs.
Yeah, it is crazy how this whole industry works. But we'll talk about that in a second. I got a question with that. But you moved to Nashville at 19. What was a turning point in your life where you said, I'm going to make this jump? Because in Texas and Nashville, that's a huge jump to make, man. Mm-hmm. So what finally brought you to Nashville?
It's funny. I did an interview earlier today. I don't usually do interviews, and I've done a couple today for a guy that was writing a book about Nashville. And he asked me that exact same question. And I was trying not to be overly sort of like, I don't know. I was trying to give some sort of answer that had some physical implications, not be so poetic, but it comes. I literally remember what drew me here was the first time I came here. So at 19, I I came up and did an audition. I think that's what you're talking about, and did some audition for some different artists, and actually got the gig. And so I would come here and work out of here and travel out of here and play with different bands. And I just remember, I can't forget the way it felt when I first drove up on Demumbrian, which is a street here in Nashville, coming off of Broadway or whatever. And I remember getting out at the Shoney's parking lot that used to be there. It's so cliche. But I got out the Shoney's parking lot, and there was a Best Western that I think I might have stayed there a night or two. I think there was a Round that night as well in the front of the Best Western, which I don't sure they still have that, but they used to. And I just remember the air was thick with creativity in a way that I just never felt before. I definitely felt some sort of like gravitational pull, and it has always remained. Sometimes I don't feel it as much now because I've been here so long.
Yeah.
But if I go away for a long period of time, which I don't do very often, but if I times where I go out of country for a week or two or whatever, I can come back, I can feel it. There's just a buzz in the air from all these people, all these little bees buzzing around the hive, trying to do something, but they don't know exactly what they're doing. It's such an energy to come here and go. I mean, you think about it, it's kind of crazy to come here and think out of, I have something. It's funny. Honestly, it's funny. The egos that can be in Nashville, and the fact that people are relatively humble because they came here going like, I know there's a lot of great songs in the American music catalog, but I have decided to add one or two or three or 1,000 to it. I have something to say that hasn't been said before. That comes with its own sort of, it's wrought with all these sort of like characters. You know what I mean? You have to be a character to think I have something to add to something that has so much great lineage already, So we come here and we try to figure it out. And there is no sort of like, there's no 5 steps to success in Nashville or in any music business, the dots that connect are erratic at best. And usually you're putting your foot out into the water and the stone appears right as you put the foot down into the water, so it's very like you can, it's walking on faith in a lot of ways and trusting that somehow it's going to work out.
Dude, I love that. And you talked a little bit about characters in there, and something I was listening when I was studying or researching for this show was you quoted Wendell Berry once about practice resurrection. Is this something you still do in your songwriting? Do you feel like you need to reinvent yourself every so often to kind of keep it fresh?
For sure. I mean, I don't make records regularly enough. Most of this happens in making records. I don't make records regularly enough where, so that like, it's usually a few years, at least in between, 3 or 4 years in between. So in doing so, a lot of me has changed by the time I'm ready to make another record. And, I try to, I navel gaze just as much as anybody, and try to sort out my life and sort out where I stand. And things are always kind of like changing. There's my brother right there, having a drink there. So things are always changing. So, and yeah, I mean, there's one of my, renew your mind daily. I think that's a scripture. That's something Paul said in the scriptures. And so I try to do that, try to get a clean slate, try to look at the business and look at my music and look at myself and look at folks around me as freshly as I possibly can. And not, because we get a habit of just kind of like, looking at someone, but not seeing them, and we kind of like, we've decided what they are. We decided what this is. And sometimes I can do that with music as well. I go, oh, it's just going to go this way. Or if I do this record, I know what's going to happen with it. It probably won't be the thing that it'll probably be disappointing in some way, or it'll be this or that. I can set all kinds of boundaries for it. But thankfully, there's a quote I put on a couple places before. I'm trying to think of the guy that said it. He was an old guy, but sometimes you build the fires. Sometimes you build the altar so the fire can come down somewhere else. Is the quote something like that? So, I'm always trying to, go in there and try to make up my mind to be as open to the situation as possible. And who knows what's going to happen, like when I was in Cadillac Sky, this bluegrass adjacent band that I had for a long time between 2002 and 2010, I remember the last couple of years, we were kind of coming to the end of you work really hard, you tour for a couple of years, you can kind of, if you're not making the strides that you would hope to make, you haven't had that break or whatever, you can really feel like, and sometimes sometimes the good news that you're wanting to get is just stuck in a slow email, stuck in, and you just haven't gotten it yet. And so I can remember sitting at Telluride. We had played a festival show. We played early in the day. It went all right or whatever. But you don't know if you're making an impact like you'd hope to do. I mean, we all have visions of grandeur. I do, at least, to have people really, like, oh, this is the record that's going to blow their minds. This is a record that's going to make me the new Towns Van Zandt, or whatever it is, whatever my ego conjures up, and foolish delusions. And I remember Mumford & Sons, Winston Marshall of Mumford & Sons came up to me as I was going to him to tell him how much I loved his band. He comes up to me and goes, "Hey, I wanted to meet you. We've been playing your record for the last 2 years on our bus. It's one of when we came to America, your band and Oak Crow Medicine Show were the two bands we wanted to meet because they inspired our sound." Dude. And so it's one of the things you go, "Oh, I had no idea about that. You've been doing this for 2 years." You know what I mean? Like, you kind of start bargaining with God. Why couldn't I got this information 2 years ago, God, when I was feeling kind of like we're not getting anywhere?
Right.
So you just trust that the music is going into the places and is you have to. I mean, at least I have to. I don't know how someone operates in the music business without some kind of faith that in something.
And did you tour with Mumford & Sons with Cadillac Sky, or who were you?
Yeah. I was sort of at the end of my rope with there was so many things going on. I was trying to live my life as well. I just come to faith in 2008 in a new way that I hadn't ever done before. I was raised up going to church and knew of God, of course, and had some relationship, but I'd never sort of like invested time into getting to know this God that I was saying that I believed in and had created me, and all the different ins and outs of that relationship that I wanted to try to spend time doing that. I was also traveling with the band. I was also traveling to Nashville and trying to continue a songwriting career that was having some success. So it was a really difficult road to figure out. And I was just like, man, you know what? There's an opportunity. I was like, man, I think if the band could shift gears, go on tour with Mumford & Sons, I'm not sure that's what I want to do the rest of my life, is be in a band. So I did go play some shows. I played a show in Milwaukee and played a show down we try to switch over to another lead. I try to say, hey, here's the guy that I know that can sing the lead. Maybe y'all can use this as a sort of a jumping off point for the band, because a lot of people the band was coming to a lot of people's attention at the time because they were getting exposed for the Mumford & Son tour that the band opened up for. And it didn't quite work out that way. The band kind of broke up after a couple of months. But there was also that was that point, just even knowing that we had, and it's always good to hear, man, from someone that, hey, you're doing something that's getting to people, that's inspiring them in some way. That's why I appreciate you saying this and having me on the podcast. It's like, oh, somebody likes what you're doing.
Dude, I love it. Yeah, I just love listening to the stories and honestly to your songs, because ever since I kind of found out about you with Everett, I was like, dude, this guy, he has some stories, and he has just a lot of stuff. When I was researching for the show, I was interested about, because like you went to Africa once, and that kind of changed a little bit about who you were too. Tell me a little bit about that trip, man, and kind of how you came back from that trip.
Well, definitely changed. Also with greater perspective. I've actually went there 3 times.
Nice.
We started a school over there with bunch of people helped and provided money for this school, which didn't cost a whole lot actually to build. And we've got in a place there in Sierra Leone, there's a place where in the history of that country, they've never had opportunity for kids to go anywhere near their homes to school, up until they'd have to walk several miles. We're talking like 10 miles to school, and be at risk, especially the young girls. And we were able to build a school there in Sierra Leone, Benduma, with the help of a lot of people that put their money into it. And we just we got 120 students, and we just graduated our first group into they go off into high school. So it's like basically kindergarten through 5th grade through middle school or whatever. So so we graduated. The kids are graduating into that, and it's funny. It's funny because you go there and you're like, one thing I came back thinking to myself, or most everybody said when I came back, like, was like, didn't you just want to take all those kids with you? And I certainly did, not because of the fact that, not because I think just because of the joy they had, it was, I was really thrown by the fact there weren't a bunch of sullen, sad sack kids sitting around, because they don't really know, everybody doesn't kind of have there, you know what I mean? And Sierra Leone's one of the lowest economic places in the whole planet. So, they're playing soccer with balls made of tape that they put together, or they're, climbing up palm trees to get fruit or something like that or coconut trees or whatever to get coconuts. And they're running in the street, they're not necessarily sad or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I can bring them all back here and stick them in front of video games. But, we could all learn from each other, to be honest with you. So there's definitely some beautiful stuff there. And I also just learned that, it probably expanded the way I thought about faith. And you can really easy get tied into the concept that Christianity is like a American idea or something like that, or that it's primarily I don't know. I mean, there's just a bunch of things you can you're easily get tied into, and then you go and there's and see how this is, how faith, whether it's Christian or Muslim, impacts the world in a powerful way. And I'm not even saying negative or positive. In powerful ways. You have very devout people around the world, and that impacted the way I think about everything. Really, meeting some people. I had a conversation on a hillside with one of the guys that was one of the ministers, the Christian ministers. He wanted me to have this conversation with his father, who was sick, who was this devout Muslim. Now they have peace among the Christians and Muslim there in Sierra Leone. But, it's a little tricky to be proselytizing another Muslim. It's one thing to go there and teach and all this kind of stuff, but to try to kind of, if you approach it like I'm trying to pull someone onto our side, if that's the way somebody looked at it, and there's plenty of people that I know that do look at it that way. I just want, and that's the way this Koji was his name. That's what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to convince his father to become a Christian. And I remember us having a conversation on the hillside that was eye-opening for him and eye-opening for me. And to see that, that he was a well thought out man. And he didn't agree with me. You know what I mean? And I didn't agree with him about a lot of things, but we both of our goals were ultimately to know God and to see his creation live in continuity with their creator. And we had different ways of looking at it. I remember at the end we shook hands and I said, hey, I'm going to pray for you. You pray for me. And that God would shine a light, give us both wisdom. And he shook my hand, and that conversation changed the way I think about everything as well. And I think Koji walked away disappointed, like, why didn't you convince him? Why didn't do no good? But certainly changed. It's funny, those things that you think you're gonna go change someone else's world and they change yours.
Yeah, for sure.
But man, it's great. It's awesome hearing that story, because you're changing lives over there, man, with having that school and everything. It's just phenomenal what you're doing over there. Like I read a little bit about that, kind of, you're working with a nonprofit and everything like that. And I was so intrigued by that. I just wanted to hear that story, the whole about the trips and everything, but I didn't know about the school, which is phenomenal. Dude.
Yeah.
It's breathtaking. Love that.
I'm proud of it.
No, it's cool to see people give back like that, man. And honestly, because I mean, just to go over there and give those kids this another day of dreaming and be able to study the right way. Like you said, just not walk 10 miles, to have something right there in their neighborhood.
Yeah, definitely.
They won't have the 10 miles uphill story to tell their kids.
Yeah, exactly. That our parents had.
Yeah, my parents still tell me those stories. So, well, we talked a little bit about Cadillac Sky. You guys released 3 albums together, and then you came to the Whistles and Bells. Tell me a little bit about that project, man. How it came along. You released 2 albums under that title. Are you still thinking about you're gonna go back to that project and really say more? Or
well, I just finished. I will say this. I just finished. Thank you for mentioning all those. I just finished a project which I've been shooting some. I just shot some videos for down in Texas. I was down in Texas. I've been working on a bunch of stuff. So hopefully I'll have a single out off that new record, which hopefully in the next few months. I've been saying that for a while. It's really one thing to I've had the records finished since February, but it's a whole nother thing to sort of shift into gears of like, let me, just to go into be a Tupperware salesman all of a sudden. It's like I love making music. It's all the selling part of it, and getting the word out is the more difficult part, especially right now, because it's such a it feels like you got to have a lottery ticket you got to win the lotto to get people's attention these days or whatever. So,
Yeah.
but that's all going to be under the umbrella of just my name. So
Nice.
that's all this music. So the Whistle and the Bells, the Golden Age, the Cadillac Sky, and all these things, and a bunch of songs I've written for this new project. I just decided to try to like tear back the veil, do it under my name, and for better or worse, be the one that's gonna that the buck stops here, kind of. So so I love to make the Whistle and the Bells was a project built up around the idea of like when I did come to a new concept of how I thought about faith and thought about God and thought about my place with God and all that kind of stuff. I went to the radio and I didn't necessarily find songs that represented how I felt about it. How I felt about, I found the road of faith to be more difficult than I at least thought the sound of the songs expressed, the lyrics expressed. And I'm moved by them all just as much as anybody, but I'm still moved by worship songs that you would hear in a modern church or whatever. But I also wanted to write songs that I felt like reflected my journey in some respect. So those records were kind of bent around that a little bit, built around those concepts. And so I don't want to keep making this, like I said, practice resurrection. I'm not trying to continue to make the same records. So I think you hear it in this new record. There's certainly all parts of me, whether it's I'm happy to talk about anything in my songs, whether it be love, life, God, all that stuff is all interconnected to me. So so you can hear all that in the new material, but it just be under my name.
I love that. I love that you put it under your name too, and just say, "Hey, this is who I am. If you like it, great. If you don't, whatever." So, no, I love that, man. I love that you're putting it out there and just saying, "Hey, this is me." So, well, before we wrap up, man, I gotta ask one last question, because when I was listening or researching for this, one thing just popped up. You used to sell Kirby vacuums, huh?
I did.
So did
Kirby in the morning, Kirby in the evening, Kirby in the afternoon.
I think the only one I sold was to my ex-girlfriend's mother.
Oh yeah, I sold one to my mom for sure. I begged her to buy one, and because we made a lot of money. I remember that you just had they would make.
There we go.
There was like $600. I think you can make $600 profit on each vacuum cleaner. So as long as you I think we would cut in our profit anytime we did. I don't remember how much we sold them for, like 1,200 maybe or something.
Yeah, we sold when I was selling them. This had to be, when did we get together? 2004. This had to be like 2001, 2002 when I was doing it. I think they were around $1,200. Yeah, and it was like $600 profit, but you could go down the price, and that's cutting into your profit.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, it was good, man. I sold like 12 one month, and I only did it for a couple of months, and then I started selling security systems because I did not like selling vacuum cleaners. And they would always do these like calls, these cold calls, to where they would offer me to clean I would clean your living room.
One free room.
Yeah. So it didn't take me long to figure out, like, hey man, if I walked in your house and they were like really kind of like not very nice to me and just said, hey man, like a lot of times this would happen, to be like, hey, I'm never buying that vacuum cleaner, it's too expensive, but you can clean my floor. And he walked out of the room. I'd be like, let me go get my stuff in my car, and then I'd put that thing in drive and leave. So so if they weren't nice to me, they certainly weren't getting me to clean their floors.
I was the same way. Then we'd always have the big guys where you're like, oh, that's NASA quality, whatever the tubing was, and he'd be trying to pull it apart. I'm like, dude, that's my demo set. Don't.
Yeah. The cincher, man. The cincher was always the bed bugs. When you do the black light on the bed, and man, if you hadn't had someone sold, especially the ladies, if you took them to the bed, yeah, can we go to your bedroom? And then I'd take the black light and put it over their bed, and all these bed bugs would be almost in any bed. You'd find bed bugs, especially the houses I could get into with these things.
Right?
There would be bed bugs, and it'd be like they just hand me their credit card. I remember the last when I quit. Actually, I remember I sold to this young couple that had just married. They were like 21 years old, and I remember the price at the end of when they paid off the payment. It was gonna be $50 a month, but I think it was over the lifetime of it. It's gonna be about $3,500 they were gonna pay for this vacuum cleaner. And I just knew, like, man, this is gonna they were in their apartment was tiny. You could tell they were just barely surviving. And I just sold them this thing, and I felt terrible about it. And I
Yeah.
was like, I can't do this anymore. I had to call it. I was like, man, this is because you always sold to the people that really could barely afford it, to be honest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just had that good sales pitch and whatever. I couldn't do it. I was like, you know what? I was the same way. I cannot sell this piece of junk to people. Like, it was a good vacuum, but we had that little catcher you put on that would catch the stuff in the white little filter. And you show them, here's your coffee filter full of crap on your vacuum.
Oh yeah, it was like a tank, dude. My mom still has it. It's like a tank. The head of that thing is like, whoosh. You kill animals if they dropped on their heads.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, our sales pitch, we'd vacuum with their vacuum, their living room or whatever. Then we use the Kirby with like a little catcher on there and go over top of it, like, see what your vacuum missed.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was the trump card, man.
I love it. So you talked a little bit about working on some new music. What else does the rest of 2023 look like for you, man, into next year? What are you gonna be working on?
Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna try and be getting this record out. That weighs heavy on my mind, getting it out and getting it going, because I've already started working on another record, so I don't have this one out. So I love that process. I write all these songs for my records, basically almost all of them by myself. So which is its own animal, and it's like it's funny I write them by myself, but I do feel like I'm collaborating when I'm writing them by myself somehow. I don't know how. But I do feel like there's a couple of people in there. I'm not necessarily. And
collaboration, different parts of you.
Yeah, they tend to disagree with me. So there's a lot of. I find those collaborations when I'm writing by myself to be harder than the ones with actual people. But I do love the process of that. It's really like I feel kind of getting in tune with the muse as much as I possibly can. So I got to get the records out and start playing some shows. I'm playing a couple of shows coming up, songwriter shows, and then putting some band shows together as well. So I'm pumped about that. I have a song. I'm grateful. My girl Haley Witters has a song on the charts. I think it might be at 18 today on the charts, and so me and my wife are both just praying it keeps going up the charts. So it's been on the chart for like 70 weeks. It feels like, I think it has been. So hopefully by December, it'll polish off its journey somewhere near the top. So that's what we'll be spending most of our time doing. And probably what we do.
Haley Withers is out there killing it, dude. She's amazing. So,
yeah.
One of those amazing artists growing up. Well, buddy, we're going to move on to our Powered by Pod Deck. So it's our sponsored part of the night. We pulled a couple cards earlier. I call these Cards Against Humanity the other day, but they're not. They're just kind of a little more heartfelt than Cards Against Humanity. But when you find yourself in doubt, what are a few steps that you can take in the right direction?
Few steps I can take in the right direction. Is this in songwriting?
Yeah, just songwriting, anything, man. It's like, if you ever found yourself in doubt, just in life in general, it's anything. What do you do?
Probably pray.
Okay.
Would be. I know that may not be the most exotic answer. Pray. Find a couple people that I can count on their counsel to be pretty good, to be trustworthy. Ask some people that have been through it already. That would be a thing.
Call that your brother of yours.
What was that?
Call up that brother of yours. Be like, all right.
Yeah. Tell me what you do here. Yeah. My wife's very honest. She'll tell me what she thinks as well. And so I got all kinds of people I can call a friend and get a bunch of people to kind of give me some feedback on what I should do. But and I try to be in tune with what I'm doing on a regular basis. And a lot of times I knew when I started something that it wasn't the right thing to be doing it or whatever. It didn't feel quite right. So I'm trying to be quicker at cutting those ties earlier on, so I don't get myself in these too deep in the forest that's it. Just don't get too deep in the forest. Just start to notice the few trees right at the beginning where you don't feel right,
I love that. So, all right, our second one is, what are you most nervous about in the future, and how can you prepare for it? Is there anything that you're looking forward in the future that makes you a little nervous, and how you prepare?
Collapse of the bank system, ChatGPT, No, I don't know. No, I'm not really nervous about nothing. Like I feel, here in Tennessee, I'd like interest rates to come down so I can buy a house without paying through the roof. I'd like some property in Franklin, Tennessee to open up so we can buy some acreage. So I'm nervous that that's not going to happen anytime soon. But I'm not too nervous. I mean, my life has been, I try not to get too ahead of myself or whatever.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what we do. Take day by day and just whatever it throws us at us tomorrow, whatever curveball comes, we're just gonna try and nail it out of the park, man, and see what happens.
That's right.
You know? All right, buddy. This next section I'm gonna do a little different tonight. We call it Melodies and Memories. And I normally just pick 4 songs, play a couple seconds of each song, and we talk about your first memory. The songs I picked tonight are just songs that you've written over the years that I connected with in a way. And I'm like, you know what? Let's hear a story that you might have. So the first time you hear this song, we're just going to talk about the first thing that pops in your head that you think of when you hear it. Hit the yellow one. So when you hear by Joe Nichols, man, what's the first memory that pops in your head about that song?
Me and my buddy actually sat down to write that song, and there was a Billboard magazine sitting right there on the table, and it was of Usher, and Usher had a song called Yeah. And we decided to write a country song called Yeah. That was completely different, nowhere near the same thing, but Usher was definitely the inspiration for that title, which is not much of a title, honestly. I was concerned that I was like, I love song titles. I was like, am I going to have a hit song called Yeah? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, I did. And
yep,
my
you
buddy,
are.
it's funny because it wasn't my buddy Matt Jenkins and Zach Crowd, a couple of my buddies, they have a song called, it was a Dustin Lynch song, but it's called Yep Yep. And I was thought, man, we're really mining some real gems here with Yeah.
Digging deep
right?
for those.
Yeah, definitely, man. Golly.
Love it. All right, hit the green one. This is one of my favorite artists right now. Other Than Me, Jackson Dean. So when you hear that, man, where did that song take you?
It takes me to that. Have you seen the video of Jackson Dean singing the national anthem?
No.
He's like 17 years old, and he's like, it's on YouTube, and he's like, I think he's like, he's probably 17. He's in his football. He has his uniform on and everything like that. And they ask him to step up there, and he sings this rendition of the anthem or Star Spangled. Yes, the anthem. Yeah, Star Spangled. That is out of this world. I forgot for a minute. I was like, is the anthem sang as a Star Spangled Banner? It is. Okay, good. And he just sings the hell out of it, honestly. It's incredible. And so when you're with him, man, he is like a shotgun coming, it is loud and powerful. And we wrote that song, I bet that song I don't think it took probably more than an hour or 2 to write that song. It was really easy to write. And I think me and Ryan Tyndall wrote that song. But we've written a bunch of good songs I love. Me and Ryan were in a band for a minute together and everything. But we started out on the little patio, and then Jackson got there. We finished the song up, and it was nothing. And some things are like, sometimes getting songs cut is like pulling teeth, and sometimes it just happens like that, and you don't even have to have a second to worry about it. I wish more were like that one, because that would have
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I love that. All right, here's my favorite one you did with Everett. So go ahead and hit the yellow one. We're gonna be okay, man. Everett, dude. I love it. This is one of my favorites. But when you hear that song, where's it take you, dude?
My wife, we wrote that song before COVID, and my wife, every once in a while she'll come to me and go, "Hey, whatever happened to that song? Whatever it's it may be a different song. One of them was better than it used to be for Tim McGraw. That was one of the ones. I love that song." But this was one of the ones she said, "Hey, whatever happened to that song?" And I remember I texted Everett and I said, "Whatever happened to that song?"
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Yeah, why didn't we do something with that song?" And then it came out and then they were like, "Hey, why don't we just?" They went in and made it kind of, I think, mid-COVID or something like that. Mm-hmm. They went in, and the two of them, and made that record and put it out. And I thought it was the perfect anthem for what we were all going through and feeling kind of lost and not knowing how things were going to turn out. And so then the recording of it's just magic. Brent's voice is killer, and Anthony's Anthony's production on it is really, really poignant. And yeah, I love that song too. I wish I kind of want him to put it out again. So Everett, if you're listening tonight, put it out again, you know?
I'll let Tom be like, hey, this needs to be a single for you guys.
I know.
Yeah.
All right, and the last one is another one of those what happened to songs. You just mentioned it, but we're gonna do this one. Go ahead, hit the green. So Better Than I Used to Be, Tim McGraw, man. I love this song. And honestly, when I was researching for this show and I saw you wrote that song, I was like, man, that's when my life anthems this guy wrote. It's just one of those songs, man, that just hits you. But when you hear it, where does it go? Where do you go?
I'm sitting in I'm in the attic of my grandmother's house, putting her Christmas tree up. That song has a long life. It was a cat, man, it had 9 lives. It was initially recorded and put out as a single by Sammy Kershaw, and it didn't actually work necessarily, but they played it a ton down in Louisiana. I remember that, and because that's where Sammy's from, or whatever, and it became a single, and they did a video, and all while this had happened, Tim McGraw had recorded it. So I was really worried that Tim was going to decide not to do it, you know, because Sammy's on the backside of his career, but he still had some presence in the business, in the industry. And so I didn't hear nothing for a while. The Sammy then came and went, and then I didn't hear anything from Tim. And then my wife literally said, "Hey, what happened to that song?" So I'll try. I won't make this too long. I'm making it short for it. But he played it on The View one day out of the blue. He played it on The View, and I was like, "All right, we're in, man. This is gonna happen." It sounded so amazing. And then like a month later, he broke up with the Curb Records. And he had made a whole record for them, and they said that Tim's not putting that record out, you know. And so I thought, well, there we go, it's not going to happen, you know. And then Curb, maybe despite Tim, I have no idea, but they'd spent money on this record, and they went ahead and put that record out, despite Tim not supporting the record.
Yeah.
And I was in my attic, or in my grandmother's attic, putting the Christmas tree up, and I don't know if I was putting it out or putting it up. I can't really remember. I may be putting it out, bringing it down from the attic. Can't remember that. I think it was actually bringing it down around Thanksgiving. That's what it was. And my friend Matt Jenkins' wife, Brittany, called me and said, "Hey, they just played your song on the radio. It's the new single from Tim McGraw." And no one had told me. I had no idea. And she had heard it, you know what I mean? And so I was like, what? You know, I fell out of the attic on the floor, and my jaw along with it. And that song is like one of my favorite songs I've ever had recorded, for sure. And I play it in every round, and it always has some sort of you can just see people, you know, I'm grateful that we wrote that song. It's a song that people can always feel. They've had some sort of experience with that sort of place in their life, and it definitely spoke to the place I had been in my life, and sometimes still are.
Yeah, dude, I love it. When I hear it, I always think of like that meme you see, that just be a better person than you were last year. Just be a better you than you were the year before. And I think of that song all the time, because honestly, you just gotta be better than you used to be, man. As long as you are, keep moving forward. So
yeah, there's my favorite line in the song is actually not the hook. It's the line, you don't have to be who you've already been. You don't have to be who you've always been. Yep. That's always the line. I'm like, you know, you're not, you know, we can feel trapped by our circumstances or trapped by our history or whatever, but we can rise up out of that. You know, there's opportunities. I think people, if you give them a chance, will forgive. You know what I mean? Giving people a chance to forgive you and move forward.
I love that, man. All right, well, we're gonna put you on the hot seat real quick before we let you go before we get you to play one and let you go for the night. So this is kind of like what we just did. First thing that comes to mind, just spit it out. It'll be some rapid fire questions. Okay. Got 60 seconds on the clock, and we'll see if we get through them all. First CD or vinyl you ever purchased?
Tim O'Brien, or actually Hot Rise, Untold Stories.
All right. Where's your happy place? If you got to blow off steam, where are you going?
My dog comes out letting my dog come out to see me every morning. I pull up from the gym, and he runs out to jumps up in my face and about takes my face off, and I never feel better than that right there.
Yes, I love that. Who has the best pizza you've ever had?
Oh, geez. The best pizza. I'll tell you the best. I can't remember what I ever had, but I definitely think there's a place in town, right over there, off Houston or whatever, called Dicey's, which is my favorite place right now.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of Detroit pizza. Really awesome.
All right. What's the wallpaper on your phone?
My wife and our oldest puppy right there. Look at
that. I love that.
Yeah. I did have a far racier picture of her in a swimsuit. She'll be thanking God right now that that's not the She would not want a swimsuit picture on the thing. And she looks great in one. It was awesome.
I feel that she'd be throwing something at me if I did
wouldn't
that
be
too.
too happy.
What's a movie that can always make you laugh?
Napoleon Dynamite.
I love that.
Yeah, no question.
What was your first job?
I worked at MJ Designs. That's where I actually met my wife. I worked in the floral arrangement section of MJ Designs, which is MJ is like a spinoff of Michaels or whatever. They're like two brothers. So it's like, yeah.
What's the oldest thing you own?
I have a 1946 LG2 guitar, Gibson guitar. I think it's the oldest thing I own, probably. This guitar here is 64. So yeah, that one's got to beat by a minute.
We get a lot of guitars, but I love seeing how far back they go. Like that's one question I love asking.
The oldest.
Yeah, that could be one of the oldest for sure.
Yeah.
What chore do you not like doing, or what chore would your wife say you do not like doing?
Geez, what chore? And she'd probably say any chores. But I'm trying to learn to be better at the chores. What's my least favorite chore to do? God, there's so many to choose from. So many to choose from. I'll tell you what I don't like doing. I don't like. I mean, she don't ever make me do it, but I don't love. Like, I remember as a kid, I hated. We used to dust the ceiling fans.
Yeah.
Thankfully, my wife's not into ceiling fans really, and my arms would be. I just remember being so exhausted. One of the biggest fights me and my wife ever got into was we tried to change. We tried to put in a ceiling fan with one of those big light fixtures, and my arms feel like they're falling apart. I'm up on a ladder, and so I don't like installation of stuff. That's for sure. It's not really a chore, I know, but.
Mine's always folding laundry, but yeah, I agree. I don't know about a ceiling fan at all. I don't know if I even know how to do that.
Yeah,
so, let alone dust one. But hey, what was your favorite childhood television show to watch?
Good Times.
Ooh.
Oh, you know what? Good Times. That was a little later. But my favorite television show to watch, I don't know if it was a children's TV show, but me and my mom used to watch General Hospital from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, all growing up. We would sit there and I think I got most of my song ideas from General Hospital. They're just recreated, retreaded old plot lines from General Hospital.
Storylines, yeah, for sure.
I love that. All right, man. So we showed pictures tonight. You got to play Bluebird a couple of times. You got to do some really cool things in your career. But what's something that's still on your bucket list? Like, I mean, a venue you want to play, or an album that you want to release, or something. What's something that you want to do before you call it a day?
Well, I'd like to play this music that I'm under my name. Probably the Grand Ole Opry would be pretty amazing. I've done it with a band or two, and but never gotten to play music that I kind of like, that was strictly oddly me. So that I think that'd be pretty super cool. Trying to think, I'm not very good at these kind of answers because I'm not much of a.
I don't know. I think Opry would be a hell of a bucket list, man, for sure. that'd be a good one. Just especially like you said, playing your music, just having them introduce Bryan Simpson, and bringing you out there onto the stage.
Yep, that'd be pretty cool.
So I love that, dude. Well, man, before we let you go, I know we went over tonight, but dude, like I said, the stories were just phenomenal. I'm like, you know what? We're just gonna let this thing run for a while tonight because I was loving it. But can we get you to play one for us?
For sure. My wife will not be surprised that we went over. She's like, he is so long-winded. I'm sure she's, she's probably like, shut up,
Hey, it's all good, man. Like, I love it. Like I said, it was an amazing episode tonight. I was having a blast.
Great. So, yeah, man, sing one. It's a song from the new record that I'm about to put out. Truth is, I haven't got all these songs built to memory yet, so I'll put up a lyric or two. This is This is a true story about I was at the BMI songwriter party that they have once a year, and I saw Cowboy Jack Clement, who wrote like a bunch of Johnny Cash songs, someone I used to know, and all these incredible songs. And he was getting a drink at the bar, and I wanted to say hello to him, but I just couldn't pull the trigger on it. Like I said, if my brother had been there, he'd have walked up, introduced us. But I couldn't pull the nerve on it. So I wrote a song about that a few years later, or a lot of years later, actually, about how it would have went possibly if I'd actually pulled the trigger on it. It's called Get Lucky. He was killing off slow gin fizz at a cash bar in Nash Vegas. The Babe Ruth of the music biz. I squeezed up close and shameless. He said, "Oh, looky there, a songwriter." I said, "Yeah, how'd you guess?" He said, "I could smell the Greyhound diesel and Brown's Diner on your breath." Da 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 da, da 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 da. Da 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 da, da 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 da. I said, "Man, I'm such a fan of your songs. You never left no chicken on the bone. Who sang them better, Cash Paycheck or Jones?" He says, "A man really can't go wrong." I said, "How about some free advice?" He said, no, he laughed and said, "Man, my ex-wives will tell you, you don't want none of mine. But if you think it'll help you, use that head on your shoulder, son. Your mama didn't raise no dummy. Don't forget, have a little fun. Life ain't nothing but a game of gin rummy. Be ready when the fire comes down. Leave your tape recorder running. Make a little art, make a little money when all else fails. Get lucky, da 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 da, da 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 da. Da 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 da, da da da. He said, "Knowing what I know now, I'd probably turn back around, work the lumber yard in my hometown, go to college at night and make my grandma proud. There's even more talent here than when I landed. But here's the secret to any business: to be more ornery than talented. Outwork the sons of bitches and use that head on your shoulder, son. Your mama didn't raise no dummy. Shake it off when the cookie crumbles and life gets crummy. Be ready when the fire comes down. Leave your tape recorder running. Make a little art, make a little money when all else fails. Get lucky, da 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 da." He said, "I better get back, but I'll leave you with this. Time behind the pen is worth it, even when it ain't lucrative. So feel more than you think. March out of line, roll up a joint, roll up your sleeves and roll the dice, and bet that head on your shoulder, son. Your mama didn't raise no dummy. Life ain't nothing but a game of gin rummy. Be ready when the fire comes down. Leave your tape recorder running. Make a little art, make a little money when all else fails. Get lucky, make a little art. Keep it good and funky when all else fails. Get lucky, da 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 da, da 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 da. Na 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 na, da 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 da, da da da.
Dude,
It was so fun.
I love
it.
It
was a great song.
See, that's what I love about you, man. Is just your storytelling and your songs is just amazing. I just love it.
So fun.
So that's the new record you're working on?
Yeah. I mean, the record's done. It's just a matter of like finding the way to get it
out there.
Yeah.
Shove it out the window, let it go, man. See if it'll got wings to fly.
Let that baby into the world. I love it, man. Dude, thank you so much for spending so much time with us tonight. I know we went over, but dude, like I said, the stories were phenomenal. I loved them.
I'm very forgiving, very kind, and very generous. Well, I appreciate it, and I love this podcast. I hope everybody keeps listening. I was going through some of the history of your other podcast just last night and listening to a few of them. It's great, man. Yeah, you've got a wealth of stuff already recorded. I'm sure it's just going to build from there.
I love it, man. Well, we're gonna be in your corner whenever you get that new album out into the world. Let us know. We'll put a review out there. We'll put it out there with everybody and just try to see what we can do to help you out, man. So
I appreciate
we're definitely waving that flag over here on our end for a while.
Thank y'all so much. Thanks, Jillian and Aaron.
Absolutely.
All right, buddy. You have a great night, buddy. Thank you so much.
Will do, man. Thank y'all so much.
Talk to you soon. Oh, that was awesome.
It was so much fun. He was
I had
so
a blast. What's up, buddy? Is your mic working? No? Can you talk now?
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have fun tonight?
Yeah.
It was a good show, right? He did. Wasn't that an awesome song? I loved it. That was fantastic.
So you getting the itch to do your own show now too? Do you like that? Yeah. What question did you want to ask him? I know we didn't get a chance to get over to it.
Like, what was his first? Where did he?
Hey, get closer to your mic. Get closer to your mic.
Where did he first perform?
His first performance.
Yeah.
Was he talking about it? He said he started performing when he was 9?
He started performing, yeah, and he performed with his brother. I can't remember. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I forgot
That's a great question. That was a great question.
It was a fun show.
That was a great show.
I love shows that run over just because it's so
it's a wealth
meaty. I want to say there's just so much that you could go back and listen to, and so many amazing stories. And that's like honestly, just certain people in this world are just destined for amazing things, and Bryan's one of them. Because
for sure.
I didn't know about the whole school thing in Africa when he started talking about that. I was like, dude, I was just blown away. I'm like, dude, he's destined for something amazing. So
yeah, I loved it.
I love it. All right, well, I think it's time to wrap up. We got a busy week this week. What are we doing tomorrow night, buddy?
I'm going to AEW.
We're going to wrestling tomorrow night, and then we got Eric Church is coming to town Thursday night, kicking off his tour at Summerfest. Friday night, we're actually stepping out of our comfort zone, out of the whole country realm a little bit, and we're covering a show. I say kind of a pop rock show in a way. Dashboard Confessional and Counting Crows Friday night. We're really excited for that one. And then Saturday, we're heading back to Summerfest to see or cover Austin Snell, which you guys haven't heard that name. Check him out. Phenomenal artist up and coming. And Brett Eldridge. They're both going to be at Summerfest on Saturday night. So we're going out there and covering that. And just very, very busy the next couple of weeks in summertime. So I love it. But thank you guys again so much. And thank you so much to Bryan Simpson for gracing us with your presence on this episode of Melodies and Memories. Your insight of music, creativity, and life are truly inspiring. Your passion for storytelling and bringing meaningful emotions through your songs are truly captivating. And we can't thank you enough for sharing your talents with us. As we reminisce about your journey as a singer-songwriter, we're blown away by the sheer dedication and commitment to your craft. Your love for music shines through each note you play, each word you write, and each story you tell. We got to talk about your struggles, your breakthroughs, and the lessons you've learned along the way. Your honesty and authenticity as sharing your story have made this episode even more special, and we can't wait to see what the future holds for you in the years to come. With your immersed talent and drive, we have no doubt you will accomplish amazing things in 2023 and beyond. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And we hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. Don't forget to catch up on everything you missed from tonight and past episodes over at melodiesandmemories.com. And we can't wait for next week. We're going to have another amazing show with another amazing songwriter. It's been out and about lately. So we'll see you guys soon, and take care.
The Melodies and Memories podcast with Jillian and Aaron Schreiber, brought to you by Arlo Revolution. As we close the book on another chapter, remember, music gives us soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything. Next week, Jillian and Aaron connect more melodies and memories with the fans and artists they love. Thank you for being a part of this musical journey, and we will see you next time on the Melodies and Memories podcast with Jillian and Aaron Schreiber.